Nazis, slavery, deception, and cheating. Underneath the fancy look and loud engines of Porsche, there's a dark story not talked about much. When you envision sleek and powerful rides, Porsche always stands out. The sight of a Porsche gliding along leaves no room for doubt. Get ready as we reveal the secret dark side of one of the car world's most famous brands, showing a long history of evil that has damaged its once great reputation. From involvement with the Nazi regime to manufacturing military cars for Adolf Hitler himself to even coercing inmates into forced labor, the truth behind Porsche's facade is a chilling tale of power, deception, and unchecked ambition. Chapter 1: Porsche History. Police from the Netherlands employed Porsches for its swift patrols in the years spanning 1962 and 1996. Since there were no speed limit signs on Dutch roadways contributed to an increase in major accidents in the early 1960s. In order to combat this, the state police, or Rijkspolitie, looked for a car that was not only mechanically dependable but also agile, had excellent braking capabilities, and had an open roof for a special advantage. This allowed the officers to climb up and control traffic, which set them apart from other police fleets around the world. The Porsche was the ideal vehicle. However, Porsche's origins didn't start in the world of high-speed pursuits. He might be a well-known entrepreneurial engineer in Germany, leading an automotive company that generates substantial revenue. However, Ferdinand Porsche's engineering journey began far from the posh streets where his luxury sports cars now roam. He had an interesting yet not widely known start to his career making vehicles for the German military before shifting to making cars for regular people to show his engineering skills. Ferdinand Porsche, famous for his engineering skills and making famous sports cars like the Porsche 911, had a complex connection with the Nazi government in Germany. He started working in the early 1900s with new designs and partnerships that matched Hitler's ideas for Germany's future. Born in 1875 in Austria-Hungary, now the Czech Republic, Porsche worked on various engineering projects early on. His notable achievements included creating advanced electric and hybrid vehicles. However, his work with the German military during World War II would greatly impact how he was remembered. In the 1930s, Hitler's rise to power changed Germany's direction. Hitler needed skilled engineers like Porsche for Germany's economic and military goals. Recognizing Porsche's talent, Hitler asked him to design a car for everyone, which became the Volkswagen. This project aimed to represent progress and prosperity under Nazi rule. This collaboration showcased Porsche's design skills as part of Hitler's plan for a renewed Germany. His idea was created in 1934, and Hitler approved it in 1935, the Führer considering renaming the Wolfsburg plant the Porsche plant. Driven by Hitler's ambition to create a people's car, aka Volkswagen, Porsche set out on a quest in June 1934, expanding on earlier triumphs with one of the best examples being the 1931 Type 12 built for Zundap. Two prototypes emerged in 1935, embodying the idea of a compact, affordable ride accessible to all Germans. Hitler's nod of approval spurred the production of the KDF wagon under the German Labor Front's auspices, bringing in a period of easily available mobility. With Hitler's nod, Porsche's associates, Albert Speer established the Fallersleben factory situated around 30 miles northeast of Braunschweig. Wartime restrictions applied to all of this facility's production was dedicated solely to military use. Porsche's development of the Volkswagen Beetle, known for its unique round shape and practical features, was liked by Hitler and became a symbol of Nazi Germany's industrial success. The factory where the Beetle was made in Wolfsburg was first going to be named after Porsche to honor his work. But later, it was changed to the Volkswagen plant to show that the car was for everyone. This shift in naming solidified the Beetle's image as a car for everyday people. Chapter 2: Porsche and the Nazi regime. While Porsche gained recognition and success through his work on the Volkswagen project, his involvement with the Nazi regime extended beyond car design. During the war, Porsche utilized his engineering skills for military purposes, developing vehicles such as tanks and other military transport for the German army. One of the controversial aspects of Porsche's collaboration with the Nazis was his involvement in using forced labor from concentration camps. In 1942, Porsche and his associate Albert Speer explored the possibility of leveraging concentration camp detainees to reduce costs and increase production efficiency. This venture, which involved skilled labor from camps like Arbeitsdorf, raised ethical questions about Porsche's role in benefiting from slave labor under the Nazi regime. In the middle of July 1942, a previous overseer of prisoners' barracks at Neuengamme, Wilhelm Schittli, took charge of Arbeitsdorf. But because Volkswagen's plans to build an aluminum foundry were not approved by the Ministry of Armaments and Munitions, the camp had to cease its operation early in October 1942. The constructed building found an alternative use afterward. Nonetheless, from the SS perspective, The Arbeitsdorf camp served as a crucial experiment in using concentration camp detainees for industrial endeavors. These events underscore Albert Speer's active involvement in creating the concentration camps, including responsibility for the fatalities at Arbeitsdorf. Despite Speer's persistent denial of participation in the disaster known as the Holocaust, historical records point otherwise. Porsche created the VK4501 heavy tank, also referred to as the Tiger P, in 1942. However, Hinchel's competing design was selected to be produced because of the intricacy of its driving system. Ferry Porsche's life and Ferdinand Porsche's, his father, were closely connected, who began imparting mechanical engineering knowledge during his son's formative years. In 1931, they founded a car design bureau in Stuttgart together. Ferry voluntarily enlisted with the SS back in December 17, 1938, later falsely claiming that Himmler had conscripted him to intricately craft the Schwimmwagen. Ferry even persistently denied volunteering until his death. In 1945, in the month of November, Ferry's family was tasked with continuing Volkswagen's design in France and relocating factory equipment as an aspect of war reparations. During their time in France, Porsche also consulted on the Renault 4CV's design and production, sparking conflicts with Renault's newly appointed. On December 17, 1938, Ferry joined the SS voluntarily. Later, he fabricated a story saying that Himmler had forced him to design the Schwimmwagen. He refused to acknowledge until his death. As part of the war reparations, the Porsche family was entrusted in November 1945 with carrying out Volkswagen's design in France and moving plant equipment. Porsche also provided advice on the Renault 4CV while they were in France, and this ended up in disagreements with Pierre Lefaucheux, the current appointed leader of Renault and a former resistance member. The Volkswagen proposal never got off the ground due to internal conflicts within the government and resistance from the French auto industry. Due to their personal connections to the former leader, Porsche, Ferdinand's son-in-law named Anton Piech, as well as Ferry Porsche, were all detained by French authorities on December 15, 1945, on suspicion of collaborating in war crimes. Ferry was released 6 months later, but Anton with Ferdinand were put to chains first at Baden but were moved to Paris and then to Dijon. Ferry headed the business with Louise, his sister. At the beginning, the workshop sold lathes alongside water pumps in addition to specializing in auto repairs. Gradually, they secured contracts for automobile design, where one involved crafting race cars for the racing team of Cisitalia and the other focusing on developing their vehicle, later renowned as the Porsche 356. One often overlooked detail is that besides Ferdinand Porsche and Anton Piech, another pivotal figure contributed to the founding of the Porsche enterprise, Adolf Rosenberger. Ferdinand Porsche, Rosenberger, and Dr. Anton Piech founded Porsche GmbH in 1931. With financial support from Rosenberger, the two men founded the firm with previous colleagues Karl Rabe, the head designer, among them. Porsche's choice to use a mid-engine configuration for Auto Union's racing vehicles was greatly influenced by Rosenberger, who was instrumental in forming the Auto Union enterprise. After a devastating accident during the Berlin Grand Prix in 1926 killed 3 individuals and severely injured him, Rosenberger's racing career came to an abrupt end. After switching to real estate investment in Pforzheim, his hometown, Rosenberger worked alongside Porsche in order to fund the development of race car concepts into working prototypes. Adolf Rosenberger made a substantial contribution to German automobile development and motorsports, but as Hitler became the top dog in Germany, his Jewish ancestry resulted in his arrest on allegations of Rassenschande racist crimes. He was detained in a place called KZ Schloss Kieslau, close to Karlsruhe, until his release, which was made possible by Baron von Vader-Malberg, one of his colleagues, who successfully lobbied for Rosenberger's release by interfering with the Gestapo. Still, Rosenberger paid 53.40 Reichsmarks or $455 to the Gestapo for his protective custody. Rosenberger left Germany right away without a choice after being freed. He moved to Great Britain and subsequently France, where he represented Porsche GmbH. He arrived in the US in 1939 and became a citizen in 1944, under the alias Alan Arthur Robert. Up until his death in Los Angeles in 1967, he resided in California and continued to be interested in vehicles and motorsports. Many Jews, including Siegfried Marcus, Joseph Gans, Adolf Rosenberger, and Edmund Rumpler, had their contributions to the history of cars purposefully erased during the Nazi era. Arbeitsdorf, mentioned earlier, was a concentration camp where inmates were used as slave laborers for industrial projects. The partnership between corporations like Volkswagen and the SS, under the pretext of industrial advancement, showcased the ethical dilemmas of wartime manufacturing and the concessions made in the pursuit of economic and military goals. Following the war, Ferdinand Porsche's reputation suffered due to his ties with the Nazi regime. Although his engineering achievements continued to shape the automotive industry, questions about his wartime activities and ethical responsibilities remained. Chapter 3: War Crimes and Forced Labor. In the annals of World War II's atrocities, the Arbeitsdorf concentration camp stands out as a grim testament to the collaboration between industry and tyranny. Established in January 1942 through a sinister alliance involving Volkswagen's chief executive Ferdinand Porsche, Reichsführer SS Himmler, and Hitler himself, this camp was not merely a place of confinement, but a laboratory for testing the depths of human exploitation. The primary objective of Arbeitsdorf was clear: to harness slave labor for the construction and operation of armaments-related facilities. At its heart was a light alloy foundry, a crucial component of Germany's wartime industrial machine. The cooperation between Volkswagen and the SS was not just a logistical arrangement, but a calculated effort to perfect a model for using concentration camp inmates as expendable laborers. Conditions within the camp mirrored the dual nature of Nazi ideology on one side, the ruthless quest for military and economic supremacy, and on the other, the dehumanization of marginalized groups. The provision of basic necessities to prisoners served the purpose of maintaining a functional workforce while enforcing absolute control. Living under constant fear had a profound psychological impact on inmates and overseers alike. The looming threat of punishment and violence shaped every aspect of life in the camp, fostering an atmosphere of terror. The SS employed brutal methods to crush resistance and enforce compliance. The creation of the Arbeitsdorf camp in Fallersleben, now known as Wolfsburg, near the Volkswagen plant, served as an experimental site for producing weapons. Although not officially designated as a satellite camp, Arbeitsdorf operated independently as a concentration camp. Initially overseen by Martin Weiss, who also commanded Neuengamme concentration camp, the camp received its first batch of 500 prisoners from Neuengamme in early April 1942, eventually totaling 800 inmates. Additional prisoners from Sachsenhausen arrived on April 26, 1942, followed by those from Buchenwald on June 23. These prisoners were primarily skilled in construction work. Due to the manual nature of tasks like leveling, pipe laying, and paving, several accidents occurred, resulting in at least 6 deaths attributed to heart and circulatory failure, accident, or suicide. Despite the harsh conditions, the prisoners received slightly better food and accommodation than in their previous camps, sleeping in air raid shelters on wooden pallets. Living conditions within the camp were a stark contrast of scarcity and strategic allocation. Prisoners, devoid of their humanity, were nonetheless given minimal sustenance, basic attire, and basic health care. However, these allocations were not gestures of kindness but mechanisms of control, ensuring that the workforce stayed operational, albeit in a state of ongoing adversity. Order was maintained through intimidation, with physical penalties and the menace of torment hanging over each laborer. The camp's framework facilitated this oppressive authority, with designated zones for consequences and a hierarchy of prisoner officials responsible for keeping order among their peers. Camp leaders such as Martin Weiss and Wilhelm Schittli played pivotal roles in perpetuating the culture of terror at Arbeitsdorf. They operated with impunity under the Nazi regime's protection, driven by unwavering loyalty to its ideology. Their actions, though condemned later, exemplified a system that prioritized state loyalty above all else. Arbeitsdorf's legacy transcends its physical closure, serving as a stark reminder of the moral dilemmas posed by collaboration with authoritarian regimes. The pursuit of economic gain often blinded entities like Volkswagen to the human toll of their actions, implicating them in enduring atrocities. The camp's closure in late 1942 did not erase the trauma inflicted within its walls. Physical and psychological scars endured long after its dismantling, as evidenced by survivors' testimonies. Arbeitsdorf's story is a microcosm of broader ethical debates, emphasizing the importance of accountability and learning from history to prevent future atrocities. Arbeitsdorf remains a cautionary example, highlighting the dangers of unhindered collaboration between industry and authoritarian powers. It offers a solemn contemplation of the human toll of conflict and the moral concessions made for advancement. As the war advanced and the atrocities of the Holocaust came to the fore, Arbeitsdorf's grim heritage became increasingly evident. The closure of the camp in late 1942 marked the conclusion of a phase, yet the marks it left on history serve as a stark reminder of how far humanity can descend in the pursuit of control and profit. Back then, and even now, what took place in ruin during the final stages of World War II seemed to be of little concern to most. Volkswagen, despite its alleged efforts to rebuild its image after the war, appeared to be the least concerned. neither admitting responsibility for the events in ruin nor taking any steps to compensate the victims. When the elderly victims finally filed a lawsuit against the company in 1999, a lawsuit that garnered minimal attention in the New York Times and would have gone unnoticed without a CBS News investigation, it was settled as part of a broader agreement. However, court records from that lawsuit filed in a U.S. court under international law due to the difficulty of filing such a suit in Germany, along with records from an earlier British War Crimes Tribunal in Helmstedt in 1946, which tried several of the company's employees for killing by willful neglect, revealed Volkswagen's culpability. It wasn't Nazi officials but Volkswagen executives who were directly involved in the deaths of hundreds of infants. Forced labor was already in use at Volkswagen as early as June 1940, with up to 70% of the workforce being conscripted, mainly from Eastern Europe. These workers were essentially slaves, receiving minimal wages. Volkswagen adhered to Nazi racial theories, treating non-Aryans as inferior and establishing a hierarchy among workers based on nationality. Even with meager rations, Volkswagen officials were reported to steal food from the kitchen and sell it back to the laborers. The scarcity of male workers during the war resulted in the employment of many young Polish and Russian women at the factory. This included Anna Snopsik, who was forced into labor at Volkswagen's farm near the factory. Despite being pregnant and facing health issues due to work conditions, she was denied repatriation and endured hardships under Volkswagen's policies. Porsche prefers that we forget about their past crimes, hoping they fade from memory and are never uncovered. This would likely have happened if Gustav Grunage hadn't disobeyed orders to destroy all Kanderheim records. Even with these records and convictions, lawyers argue that Volkswagen hasn't publicly accepted responsibility for the deaths at Wolfsburg and Ruhen, nor made efforts to compensate the mothers or honor the deceased children. When Anna Snopsik sued on behalf of many mothers, Volkswagen avoided a trial by folding the case into a broader reparations agreement handled by the German government, distancing itself from accountability. In essence, Volkswagen hasn't erased its culpability, it's just waiting for time to erase the memory of its atrocities as the affected mothers pass away. Chapter 4: Modern Scandal. Let's delve deeper into the Porsche saga, where they've been hit with a substantial fine for their diesel emissions missteps. This isn't just a small penalty, it's a wake-up call for the auto industry. What led to this hefty fine? It traces back to 2015 when it became clear that some cars weren't as environmentally friendly as advertised. Emissions manipulation was the issue, and Porsche was caught up in it. The Stuttgart prosecutor's office accused Porsche of a negligent breach of duty. Translation: they were bending emissions rules in Germany. When you're making profits like Porsche, each car bringing in around 18% profit, double what Audi makes, you're bound to attract criticism when things go wrong. The deception involved using special software in their diesel cars. This software could tell when the car was being tested for emissions and would temporarily lower emissions to pass the test. However, during normal driving, the cars emitted harmful substances at levels much higher than allowed by rules. This trickery during emissions testing was an obvious attempt to fool regulators and buyers about the environmental impact of Porsche's diesel cars. It let the company advertise their cars as eco-friendly and meeting emissions rules, even though they were actually releasing harmful substances well above legal limits during regular use. The impact of this deception was serious. This not only caused more dirtiness in the air and harm to nature, but also tricked buyers who believed these cars were greener than they really were. Also, it made people question if the systems that check cars are truthful and raised concerns about the fairness of the whole car business. Porsche, along with other car makers that did similar things, got fined a lot because of the diesel emissions issue. The fallout from this bad behavior was a lesson for the car industry, showing the need for more honesty, responsibility, and following the rules about the environment when making and selling cars. But there's more drama. Former executives like Wolfgang Hatz, Porsche's XRD chief, faced legal troubles. Hatz spent time behind bars and still isn't in the clear. It's like a soap opera, with twists at every turn. Let's talk engines. Porsche used Volkswagen's 3.0-liter turbo diesel V6 in models like the Cayenne, Panamera, and Macan SUVs, but they halted diesel production, sensing trouble on the horizon. Porsche isn't alone in this emissions saga. BMW faced a fine too, though without the same sneaky tactics. Daimler is also under scrutiny for potential emissions issues. Regarding secrets, Porsche SE Volkswagen's big boss faced backlash for not disclosing diesel troubles in 2008. Shareholders weren't pleased, claiming losses. The court ruled that Porsche's top brass were unaware back then, but the legal battle continues. Dieselgate's fallout isn't just about fines. It's a lesson in following regulations, especially regarding emissions. With billions in losses, automakers must innovate sustainably or risk losing ground. Now, let's take a closer look at the wider impact of the Dieselgate issue. People are becoming more aware of environmental concerns and desire cleaner vehicles. Car manufacturers are under pressure to develop eco-friendly advancements, or they risk falling behind in a market that prioritizes environmental friendliness. Dieselgate led to changes in rules. Governments are making emissions rules stricter and keeping a closer eye to avoid similar problems. This is making car companies rethink how they do things and spend more on cleaner technologies, but it's not just about rules and new tech. The trust between car companies and customers has taken a hit. Building back that trust means being open, accountable, and really caring about the environment. Looking ahead, the car industry is in for a tough but changing time. The lessons from Dieselgate are pushing for cleaner ways to travel. It's a tough road, but it could lead to a greener world for everyone. Now let's talk about how Dieselgate affected Porsche. The big fine is important, but it's just part of the story. Porsche's image has taken a hit, especially among people who care about the environment. They quickly made changes, stopped making diesel cars, and started focusing on electric and hybrid tech. This wasn't just about following rules, it was about staying important in a changing market. The popularity of electric vehicles was increasing, and Porsche had to keep up. The Taycan, Porsche's initial all-electric vehicle, was a significant step in this fresh direction. But switching to electric cars had its own challenges. Making new tech, setting up charging stations, and getting people to like electric cars needed a lot of money and new ideas. Porsche had to get creative not just in making cars, but also in telling people why they should care about electric cars. Even with all these challenges, Porsche's push for electric cars worked. The Taycan got good reviews, showing that Porsche can make cars that are fast and eco-friendly. This success led to more electric models, making Porsche a strong player in the electric car market. However, Dieselgate's impact is still there. Porsche is still dealing with legal fights and more rules, showing how important it is to be honest and care about the environment. After all, the hefty penalty won't fade away quickly. Chapter 5: Brake Issues. Picture driving along the highway in a sleek Porsche, a symbol of top-notch car engineering. The wind rushes past, and the road ahead promises a smooth and exciting trip. However, hidden beneath this impressive vehicle lies a potential problem, a flaw in the brake system that could disrupt your journey. In the luxury car world, where every detail is carefully designed for performance and safety, a brake issue can have serious consequences. Porsche, known for its precise engineering and iconic designs, faced a major challenge that could impact not just how enjoyable the drive is, but also the safety of its drivers and passengers. In 2019, Porsche encountered a significant safety challenge concerning the brakes in certain vehicle models. The issue was related to a component in the brake system that had functionality issues, creating difficulties for drivers in stopping safely. The brake problem pointed to a basic mistake in how the brakes were designed or made, showing gaps in making sure things were done right. This big issue raised serious worries about safety, as it could make it tough for drivers to brake well, especially in dangerous situations on the road. Even though Porsche is known for making great cars, how they dealt with this brake problem wasn't up to scratch. Finding such a big safety problem suggests problems in how they checked the design, tested things, and made sure everything was good during production. The safety recall Porsche did was needed, but it showed they were reacting to a problem that should have been caught earlier. The fact that they found the problem after the cars were already out there raises doubts about how well they checked things before putting cars on the market. Also, the way Porsche told customers about the recall and what to do could have been clearer and more open. People who had cars with the brake problem might have felt unsure or not urgent enough about fixing the safety issue, making them wonder if Porsche really cared about keeping them safe. The issue with the brakes originated from a flawed part in the brake system, leading to a decrease in braking performance or even brake failure in severe situations. This raised serious worries about safety as it could affect how well drivers could control and stop their vehicles securely. Upon finding out about this problem, Porsche took quick action to deal with the safety risk. The company conducted thorough investigations and tests to figure out what was causing the brake problem. This included looking at different parts of the brake system, like components, materials, and design details, to figure out where the issue came from. The safety recall started by Porsche aimed to fix the brake problem and avoid possible accidents or injuries due to reduced braking performance. Affected vehicle owners were promptly notified about the recall and provided guidance on how to fix the problem, emphasizing the priority of safety on the road. The brake problem underscored the critical importance of rigorous quality checks and testing processes in ensuring the safety and reliability of car systems. It also showed the need for continuous monitoring and proactive steps to find and deal with potential safety risks early. Thankfully, there have been no widely reported casualties or accidents specifically attributed to brake issues in Porsche vehicles. Chapter 6: Easter Egg. Porsche has maintained its reputation as one of the greatest automakers in the world despite all the scandals and dramas it has endured for almost a century, especially now that it is owned by Volkswagen. Porsche makes really good cars that are fast and have cool features. They pay a lot of attention to detail and use the latest technology in all their models, like the 911 and Cayenne SUV. Their cars look great and are also designed to work really well. Porsche has a long history in racing and is well respected in the car world. They've won big races like Le Mans, showing their top-notch in racing. People love their classic cars like the 911, which shows how much they're liked by car fans everywhere. Porsche keeps coming up with new ideas, especially in electric cars like the Taycan, showing they care about the environment and making driving fun. The Porsche community is super passionate, showing how much people love the brand beyond just owning a car. Lately, Porsche is focusing more on being eco-friendly. They're using advanced tech to cut emissions and supporting renewable energy, proving they're serious about making great cars while being sustainable. This shows how Volkswagen became the biggest car maker globally in 2017 and gained attention again in 2021 as the largest car manufacturer worldwide. This is a big deal for Porsche too, showing their strong position in the car industry. It surpassed all other automakers in global auto sales in 2021. As the largest automobile manufacturer, Porsche keeps setting the standard for quality, speed, and style with its cutting-edge designs and innovative technologies. Chapter 7: Porsche in 2024. Porsche is getting ready for a big year after doing well financially in 2023. Oliver Bloom, their leader, is pleased with the new cars that will be released in 2024. They made 40.5 billion euros in 2023, a 7.7% increase from the previous year. Additionally, they had a 7.6% increase in profit of 7.3 billion euros. They were nonetheless profitable despite troubles with their supply chain and their IT expenditures. Lutz Meschke, the deputy chairman, says people still want their cars and they're careful with spending. For 2024, Porsche's focusing on launching new rides. They're quite excited about modernizing the 911 Classic as well as the Panamera, Macan, and Taycan. The first ever hybrid 911 is being produced, and it's a sporty and environmentally responsible vehicle. They're also fully committed to electric vehicles, beginning with the Macan's transition. Working with Rimac, who knows a lot about electric cars, has been great for Porsche. Their new 911 hybrid is a mix of gas and electric power, showing off what they can do together. They're also planning a super powerful hybrid version of the GT2 RS for the future. Porsche's looking strong for 2024, keeping up with tech, making cool cars, and staying on top in the car world. Chapter 8: Conclusion. Porsche has had its share of ups and downs but has come out stronger. From dealing with historical stuff to today's challenges, they've shown real grit and growth. Their knack for pushing boundaries in cars keeps them cool and ahead in performance, style, and eco-friendliness. People love them for being top-notch and always aiming for happy customers. By teaming up smart, getting tech-savvy, and never giving up on excellence, Porsche isn't just surviving, it's thriving. They roll with the punches and grab new chances, earning big respect along the way. However, there are lingering shadows too. The historical ties, the controversies, like the Nazi-era connections, emission scandals, and other messy bits, don't just vanish overnight. So, considering all this, what are your thoughts on Porsche's journey? Does knowing more about their history and challenges make you more interested in their latest models? Share your thoughts below. And if you want to stay updated on more content like this, hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. See you next time.